Hello everyone, my name is Gary Arnett. I am your trainer today. The topic of our webinar is Transition to Paragon for Residential. Let me begin my PowerPoint. Again, my name is Gary Arnett. I am from Kansas City. I am with Paragon, and I joined the Paragon team back in 2004 as a trainer. I love traveling. I love sharing what I know about Paragon, and I have really enjoyed my time here in Vancouver. You live in a beautiful area. As we go through our webinar today, you have the opportunity to ask a question. To ask a question, we'd like you to type your question into the question zone, and you'll find that by clicking on the orange rectangle with the white arrow over in the upper left-hand corner of your webinar tool. So what you can then do is type your question into the question zone, and with your question in, please go ahead and click on send to send your question on into us. And then we'll answer your question as we go through the webinar. During this webinar, we're going to cover how you access Paragon's residential database for you here. We're also going to talk about the homepage navigation and how to do searches. We'll look at managing your results, and with that, we're going to look at how you view, email, and print your different property reports from your residential Paragon database system. We're going to talk about how you save a search and then how you can recall those saved searches, how to do a tax search, and then how to manage your contacts. So those are some of the things we're going to cover during the next 90 minutes. Now, Paragon includes, I think, a lot of exciting new features and functionality for you. Paragon also has a lot of things that you're familiar with working with. Now, the name may be a little bit different. The workflow may be, it will be similar, but I think you're going to find there's a lot of commonality between what you're using now and the Paragon system you're going to be transitioning to. Now, one thing you may be interested in knowing is that Paragon for the last 3 years has been rated #1 in MLS or for MLSs in several different categories, and that's based on a Clarity survey of hundreds of thousands of different MLS users using different MLS vendors. And again, Paragon comes back #1 in multiple categories. Now, some of the new functionality you're going to find inside Paragon has to do with the last 5 searches. When you're on a search criteria screen and you hover over the button that says last search, the last 5 sets of criteria that have been in the search criteria screen or template, when you clicked on the search button, will be retained for you. And they don't have to be saved searches. It's just any criteria that was on the search criteria screen or template that when you clicked on search, with the newest at the top, oldest at the bottom. And as a new one comes in, that oldest one will drop off for you. We also have what's called listing cart, and there's lots of different listing carts available for you. There's one for you, there's one for all of your contacts, and you can also create specialty listing carts. What is a listing cart? It is a place where you can put ML numbers into. That way you can do automatic email notifications if you want on those, or it could just be a repository for different listings you want to keep an eye on. We also offer to you a map search. And with the map search, you can draw up to 3 different shapes on the map. Now, it could be all circles, all rectangles, all polygons, or any combination of the 3. But you can have the different shapes on the map, which would include functionality. However, any of those shapes could be made to exclude, where you exclude listings within that different specific shape. And I'll show you how that works when we get into searches and doing a map search. On the home page, we have what's called a quick search widget. That is there for you. It comes standard with a map search field in it and some already loaded fields. You can, by clicking on the blue gear in the upper right-hand corner of that widget, take any of those fields out, put any fields you want, up to a total of 15 customizable fields. You can place them in any order you want, and with them being saved, you now have that quick search available to you on the home page, allowing you to come in when you're rushed or behind, put in criteria, get results, and then either print or email. Some of the other things that Paragon offers that may be new to you are the multiple email signatures. You can have as many different email signatures as you would like. And sometimes agents ask, why would I want a multiple email signatures? Well, you could have an email signature for your peers within your office. You could have another email signature that would be unique to different realtors within the board. You could have another signature for buyers, a different one for sellers, one for vendors, even one for family if you wanted. But this allows you to have the right contact information and maybe any kind of branding you want, like your picture and your office logo inside that signature. Now, in addition to having multiple signatures, you can also have multiple message bodies. Message bodies would be that content, those emails you send out to your clients again and again, day in, day out, multiple times each day. So instead of having to type that message, each time independently, you can load it once into Paragon, and then when you need that particular message going to any client, you can select it from the email functionality. And I'll show you how to do that when we look at emailing results out to your clients. Now, in order to create these signatures, these message bodies, a variety of other things inside Paragon, we have a rich text editor. This rich text editor is like a mini word processing system inside Paragon just for you. In addition to having a spell checker where you can add your own particular words, you can also change the font size, the font face, the font color. You can make it bold, italicized, underlined. You can even change whether you have a background color or highlight to it. So it's a great tool for you when you're composing inside Paragon different text items. You can send that out. In addition to being able to change those different items as far as font size and all, you can also put in a hyperlink, so you could put a link so people can click and go to a particular website. Plus, you can also put in pictures. So again, it's a very dynamic tool for you. When you upload listings, or when whoever does your listing input for you uploads a picture, it can be a 10 megabyte picture. We'll then resize it, and yet that picture retained inside Paragon is larger than the typical laptop screen that you would have. With it being a large picture retained inside Paragon, when we put that into a listing property report, you're going to have high quality, high clarity when it comes to the details of the picture. On your grid, on the on the left-hand side of the grid, you're going to find a very small picture. It gives you a quick idea of what that property looks like. However, when you click on that picture, you'll be able to see a larger picture, and you'll be able to see all of the pictures associated with that listing. You can even turn on a slideshow, and I'll show that to you when we get to the grid. We have several different types of email notifications. The one that I really like and I would recommend to you is called Client Connect. Client Connect is a website, and when there's a saved search that sends matches out to your client, instead of sending an email with those matches in it, we'll send an email to your client saying there's something new you should see out on the Client Connect website. There'll be a link in that email that will take your client to the website. Once they're inside the website, they can see all of those listings that you've sent to them for an unlimited number of days. In addition to being able to see those properties for an unlimited number of days, they can also classify the property as a favorite, a possible, a reject, and they can add a comment. Now, when they add a comment, that's a private communication between just you and your buyer. It doesn't go out on a Facebook-like wall. It isn't sent to the listing agent. It's just private between you and your client. And because your client can classify and reclassify those properties as many times as they'd like, it is a great feedback tool for you to see, is your client engaged and are they liking the properties, because it's a favorite or a possible or a reject. And you can be set up to receive email notifications about each of those different classifications. Plus, when a new listing is added, there's a price change, a status change, or comments are added. So you too can be automatically notified about activity in Client Connect. Final on Client Connect for right now is that when you're inside Contacts and you click on View and Manage Contacts, you'll then get a grid of all of your clients. And you'll see how many matches they've had, how many are new, how many have changed, how many have yet to be decided, and if they're decided, how many are favorites, possibles, rejects. You can see if comments are there. You can see when was the last email that was sent to them, and when was the last time, date and time stamped, when they entered into Client Connect and worked inside there. So a lot of great things that gives you wonderful feedback. I highly recommend Client Connect for your automatic email notifications. We're in what's called a parallel phase. And parallel phase means that you have access to Fusion and ML Exchange and Paragon all simultaneously. And so you can be any one of those systems. You can do searches, get results, send up email notifications, and use any of those systems as you would like. During parallel phase, we're going to be adding functionality to Paragon. So things like web forms, touch base, the provincial tax results for a particular property, all of those things will be integrated into Paragon and very easy to get access to. And so as we're going through the parallel process, if there's a slowdown in functionality and how quickly it's returning back to you results, just know that we're adding more content and adding more data, like all of your property history, all of your documents talking about your particular property, be it floor plans, promotional materials, whatever. Plus, we're going to be doing the integrations for TouchBase, your tax, your web forms, and all those other things. Now, during parallel, all listing functionality must be done in either Fusion or ML Exchange. You can't do that in Paragon. You won't get Paragon's listing input and maintenance functionality available to your office, to your board, or to you individually if you have that capability until the end of August, 1st of September. But during parallel phase between now and the end of August, all listing input and maintenance or additions or modifications has to be done in ML Exchange or Fusion. Now, listings are transferred into Paragon on an hourly basis. So if you add a new listing, if you make a modification or change to a listing, within an hour, that updated information will be inside Paragon, available to you and your automatic email notifications you can start setting up in Paragon sometime during the week of April 6th. Listing input and maintenance will be enabled in Paragon at the time of cutover, and again, that's anticipated at the end of August, the beginning of September. Now, when it comes to your system requirements, you can use your PCs and Macs to access Paragon. You want to be running up-to-date operating systems and up-to-date browsers. And here are the 4 browsers that you can utilize as you're using Paragon. So if you like Firefox or Chrome or Internet Explorer Safari, I would have those on your computer. In addition to that, I would recommend you have at least a couple of extra browsers on your computer, because periodically there's a glitch between your computer, the browser, and Paragon. Not very often, but sometimes it does happen. And if that happens to you, log out of Paragon with the one browser, log back in with a different browser, and continue to be productive and functional inside Paragon. Now, some of you are going to be asking about tablets, and yes, Paragon is compatible with tablets. So if you want to use your iPad, your Android, or Microsoft Surface tablet, you can use those inside Paragon. They're not apps. You're going to go into the same web address in order to access Paragon. And you're going to have almost every bit of functionality that you have with a PC or Mac or with your tablet. Now, detailed information about system requirements and all can be found at paragon.mlslink.ca. And there you're going to find transition documents, training workbooks. Those can be downloaded, those can be viewed, they can be printed. You can do a variety of different things with those to help you transition into Paragon. And there's also a smartphone functionality. Right now, within your ML Exchange and Fusion, you have 2 different smartphone tools that you can utilize. Those will also be brought over into Paragon. So if you like a particular smartphone tool, great. You can keep using it when Paragon becomes your only system at the end of August, beginning of September. Paragon also has its own tool, and it's called Paragon Mobile. It too allows you to search for properties, send out emails about multiple properties in a single email. You can then look at your contact information and a variety of things. And so you're going to have, come the 1st of September, 3 different mobile products that you can pick and choose to use as you interface with your smartphone and Paragon. And again, it's not an app. You're logging into the specific database that everything else, all the listing information is going into. Just that by using Paragon Mobile, that information display will be optimized for your smartphone screen. So what is the web address to get into Paragon? Well, http://bcres.paragonrels.com. Now, notice in the web address that there are no wwws. So if you're to put in exactly what you see on the screen, you would then go to your login screen for Paragon. Now, you can also go to Realtor Link and access both residential and commercial databases. Commercial is up and running right now. You can go in and use that. And once the week of July 6th comes around, you'll be able to access your residential database from that site also. And if you want to practice what we're going to talk to you about today, then I recommend you log into the commercial side. Although the data will be different, the field functionality I'm going to show you today will be exactly the same. Now, your key account will not be active in residential until the week of July 6th. And commercial is now available, again, if you want to practice what we're going to show you today. Now, to access Paragon, you're going to use MLS Link Safe login page. And so the web address I just gave you, or if you use Realtor Link, will take you out to that login page that you're familiar with. It's the same screen you've been using to get into ML Exchange and Fusion. Just as you go with that web address, it's going to point to Paragon. And to sign in, you're going to use your usual member number and password to access Paragon. So your credentials don't change. The only thing that's different is what web address you use to access the residential database as compared to ML Exchange or Fusion or the commercial database. This is what that screen is going to look like. There you go. And with that, you're going to put in your username number and your password. And when you click on Agree, you're then going to go out and see that site. Now, the very first time you log into Paragon, you're going to have an end user license agreement that you're going to need to agree to. And so you must agree to the end user license agreement in order to access Paragon. And this is what that user agreement will look like. And so what we want you to do is review the user agreement. You may have to scroll down in order to see all of it. Notice that there is a print button that you can utilize. That way you can print out the agreement. The main thing we want you to do is we want you to click where it says agree. And with that having clicked agree, we then want you to click on save. There we go. That way you'll be able to then go ahead and log into Paragon. If you by chance say disagree and click on save, you'll get a message that says the only way you can access Paragon is by clicking on agree. So go ahead and just click on agree to begin with. That way you can access the Paragon database. Once you've made the agreement to the end user license agreement, you will not see this again. So this is only on the very first time you log into Paragon. Well, having given that quick introduction, let's go ahead and take a look at your Paragon residential database. Moving over, this is what you'll see once you log into Paragon. This is your home page. Now, many of you are looking at this and saying, this is really different. This is really different than what we're used to having. So let me give you a quick navigation of what you see here on the home page. Let's look at the middle section to begin with, because I'm going to zoom in and this is going to kind of shrink down. But notice you're given a welcome into Paragon Residential Database. As you come on down, you're going to be given updated information about what's happening as you make this transition. As you scroll on down further, notice that there are 3 columns. These 3 columns give you great information about what to be doing and answering questions and giving you access to the different databases you're familiar with. Over here on the left-hand side, Getting Started will then show you information, things you ought to be looking at and considering as you're making the transition into Paragon. In the center section, let me move back up to the top. In the center section, we have the top 5 help desk questions. And so as you scroll on through, you're going to see not only do I have the question being asked, but also you have that answer right below. And so this then gives you good information to help you as you're making the transition into Paragon. Then over on the right-hand side, we have useful links. These useful links have a lot of great information like the Paragon transition website, plus other common links that you're used to having. As you scroll all the way down towards the bottom, notice at the very bottom you have web forms. There we go. You also have touch base right above that, Central Lock above that, plus a variety of other things. So again, you've got lots of information available to you here in the center section. Now this center section is the collapsible part of our homepage, and so let me zoom in just a little bit so you can see more details here on the homepage. Whenever I go out and do transition training, one of the very first questions people ask me is, where's the hot sheet? They're used to seeing a grid on the home page that has the details about what's new, the hot sheet within the database. Well, instead of displaying a grid, over in the upper right-hand corner, we have what is called the Market Monitor. The Market Monitor, by the way, is a widget, and I can move it to the other side of the home page message if I wanted, or move it back, and wherever I have it when I log out of Paragon, it's going to be there for me also when I log back in. And another important thing about Paragon, it is not based on cookies on your computer. It's based on settings you've made in Paragon, which will be displayed on whether on any computer you're using to access your account in Paragon, be it a PC, a Mac, at home, at the office, a friend's, one of your children, grandchildren, whoever. Plus, any of the different customizations you've made to the search criteria screen or to the grid or any other property report will be retained regardless of what device you come in on. But anyways, back to the Market Monitor. As you notice here on the left-hand side, we have several different labels that represent different details about properties like new, expired, price change, hot list, and sold. When Paragon gets moving for you that week of July 6th, you will then see numbers out here that represent the number of new or expired, price change, hot list, or sold properties. By clicking on the number or clicking on the label, you then get the grid you're anticipating for a hot sheet. And so although the hot sheet is here, it's a little bit different in its display. We give you a summary of how many are new or expired, price change, or sold. And then if you want to see the details, click on the name or the number. And so it's there, it's just a little bit different display initially for you. And since we're over here over at the Market Monitor, let me scroll, or let me stay with the Market Monitor and show you that we have this broken out into Market tab, an Office tab, and a Firm tab. These three tabs have the same different details displayed down in the center of the column. So you've got the wording on the or labels on the left-hand side and the numeric values on the right. Now, this information, it will initially be displayed, especially for market, based on the entire database of your Paragon system. So it includes the Greater Vancouver, the Fraser Valley, Chilliwack, and also BC Northern. Now, if you'd rather not see all the details for all the different boards that are part of your Paragon system, you can come to the upper right-hand corner and click on the blue gear. The blue gear indicates that that particular area or zone inside Paragon can be customized. So instead of seeing all that information, you can say, I only want to see, let's say, residential detached in a particular area for a particular type. So that could be like for townhouses, it could be half condos, whatever it happens to be. But anyways, you can make the market tab, rather than being everything, it can show your niche market. Now, when it comes to office and firm, we show you these listings for either your office, that's the office you're working out of, or for your firm, that is the multi-office organization you might belong to. We'll have the same breakouts for those listings belonging to members of the office and firm. Now, down on the bottom, I've chosen to have 3 days being the number of days back I'm looking. You could set a value when you click on the blue gear of a value between 1 and 7. And when you save it, then your market monitor will always be looking back those number of days. On the fly, though, just on I want to see what's new going on, I could change that 3 to a 0 and click on the refresh button. By doing that, Paragon's going to show you only what's new for today. Now, this customizable setting is only temporary, and I can put a value between 0 and 30. And by clicking on refresh, the market monitor will reflect for me based on these breakouts you see to the left, up to 30 days back. And so I could look backwards up to 30 days to see all the different details when it comes to the new, expired, price change, or sold listings. Now, when I come over to my information, it's going to be the same. It's going to be looking back, just like it is for all the other fields, up to 30 days backwards. Now, that is true for all fields except for one, and that is expire alert. For expire alert, we're going to be looking at whatever number you have in that lower left-hand corner as it relates to just your listings, not anybody else's listings, just yours. That means you can project up to 30 days into the advance to see, do I have any listings that are going to be expiring within 30 days? If so, you'd see a number, and by clicking on the number or on the label, you then get a grid of results, and you can then start doing that paperwork today rather than 20, 30 days down the road when you might be on vacation. So it's an easy way for you to be aware of what's happening when it comes to the market and your listings. Now, below the market monitor, we have what's called contact activity. And contact activity is looking at your saved searches. And so based on the number of days back you have in the upper left-hand corner, and you can change it by clicking on refresh, you can see the number of new matches based on your saved searches. Now, if you've already seen a listing, you can see under new changes on listings, any listing that's had a change, like a price change or a status change. Now, for new activity, not only are we looking for new matches and changes on listings, but if your client has been out to Client Connect and classified a property as a favorite, possible reject, or added a comment, that will also show up in new activity. Now, to the right of many of these fields, there's an eye, and that eye, when you hover over it, gives you a call out that tells you what's being reflected in that particular field value. Let's move over to the left-hand side of the screen, which is the quick search. As I told you in the PowerPoint, you have a mapping field, which is hard-coded into this widget. You can't take it out. But by clicking on the blue gear, you can then take any field that is here over on the left-hand side and take it out, add up to 15 of your own customizable favorite fields, drop them in, position them top to bottom the way you want it, and when you save it, you then have a quick search here on the home page, which allows you to come in, put in criteria, and then click on search to get those results that you can either email or print out. Is this intended to be a comprehensive search? The answer is no. It's been designed to give you quick field access to do the results, put in the criteria, get results, and then either print or email. Now, in Paragon, there's some big buttons across the top. These big buttons house the primary functionality of Paragon. So as an example, I want you to remember the phrase, if I see it, I can do it. Now, that sounds maybe kind of motivational seminar-ish, but I want you to remember that we have large buttons, and on our toolbars, I think very descriptive buttons that let you know exactly what functionality you'll find when you click on the button. So as an example, if I wanted to do a search, I would click on the search button. If I wanted to create a CMA, I would click on the CMA button. If I wanted to work with my contacts or Canadian-based financial calculators, see the province tax search, I would click on those buttons, and that would allow me to access that part of Paragon's functionality. Well, let me show you what you get when you click on the buttons. When you click on the home button, it will always bring you back to the home page. When I click on the search button, I then get a search menu, and here I have my different property classes to work with. So I have residential detached, residential attached, multifamily, and land. And what we call a multi-class search, I believe you call a cross-property search. In other words, I could search by multiple property classes all at one time in a single search criteria screen. In the center, we have some specialty searches. So we have a map search. We have a hot sheet. Now, with the hot sheet, you can have an unlimited number of saved hot sheet searches. Below that, we have the auto hot sheet. The auto hot sheet will give you what's new since the last time you ran it. Now, when you get access to Paragon the week of April 6th, I would recommend you come in and do an inventory search. The inventory search allows you to see your listings. Not only make sure that the listings have come over correctly, but make sure the details of the listing have also come in correctly. If you find some errors, please make note of the ML number, the field, the correct data, and Paragon's incorrect data. With several examples, email that into the board, and the board will get it to us in Kansas City at Paragon. That way we can make sure your information, your database is as accurate as possible. And then this is where you would see your listing cards, and you could see all of your saved property searches. Well, moving over, right now you can see your listings. At this point, no listing maintenance or additions can be added because we're in parallel, and that all has to be done in ML Exchange and Fusion. I move over to CMA. I could create a CMA presentation. I can work with my saved presentations, and I can also come in and add subject properties outside of a CMA. That way I can then utilize those as I want based on the particular property I'm doing a CMA for. Moving back up to the big buttons, I do have my contacts. I can add a contact. And another thing to do the week of April 6th when you get access to Paragon is we'd like you to view and manage your contacts. Go out and make sure that all of your contacts have come over and make sure their contact information is correct. Now here's something that's of importance to you. All of your contacts and all of your saved searches have come into Paragon as of June 16th. And so all of your contacts are there, all of your saved searches are there, they're even matched up together. However, if you've made any changes to saved searches since the 16th or changed criteria in a search, you've added new contacts, you've changed your contact information since the 16th of June, you'll need to manually do that inside Paragon. Now, while we're in parallel mode, you can obviously look at ML Exchange or Fusion for your contact or search information, look in Paragon and make sure they're all together. Now, a nice thing about coming into Paragon is that your contacts and searches have been matched together. So when you're ready to start activating automatic email notifications in Paragon, bring up the contact, find the safe search that's paired with them, and then pick and choose whether you want to use Client Connect or more traditional email notification. And again, I recommend Client Connect. Here's your financial-based calculators for Canada. Moving on over to the right, you're then going to see where you can do a province-wide tax search. Continuing on to the right, you have a membership roster. Now, in the membership area, you have an agent roster, and an agent roster should really be called a user roster because it's alphabetical by last name of all users of your Paragon system. Below that, we have a membership roster. The membership roster is based on your office's alphabetical sequence inside the database, so it's alphabetical by office, and then it's alphabetical by user's last name within the office. Underneath resources, you're going to see lots and lots of links out here based on each of your different boards. So for Greater Vancouver, you're going to see a lot of links that you're used to finding here under resources. So it's another place to find helpful access to different databases that you're familiar to working with. Moving on over to the right, we have our preferences. And for preferences, below on the right-hand side, we have under System, we have Preference User. That's where you go in and set up the general branding of your Paragon account. Plus, when you click on Search, what report do you want to see? Do you want to be blind copied on all emails going out of Paragon? And when your name is displayed, do you want to have a phone number? And if so, which one of up to 5 different phone numbers from your email or from your agent account do you want to have displayed? You can also set up your Client Connect website. You can also put in the basic building blocks of the webinar of our CMA. Now, if you're an iPad user, these three links on the right-hand side are grayed out. You can't use them. So how do you do that setup? Well, still click on Preferences, but move down and to the left. And by clicking on User, System, and also on email, you'll then be actually setting up more functionality than you can by just running the regular preference wizard. Coming down to Client Connect, you can then set up your Client Connect site, and then for CMA, you can put in those basic building blocks. So sometimes you're going to find that using a tablet, the functionality may be a little bit different, but yet it's all there for you. Now, when you're done with your system and session inside Paragon, we'd ask you to log off using the log out button that's in the upper right-hand corner of the page. Well, moving one item to the right, you're going to find a help site. And by clicking on the help site, you're going to find a lot of great information that's been put together by your board to help you learn about how to use Paragon. There'll be guides, both short and long, that can be viewed online, can be printed out or saved to your computer. If you print them out, you can make your own user guide if you'd like. You're also going to find videos, both short and long, that will help you learn how to use Paragon. You'll have a trainer that will be talking you through that process and actually giving you the step-by-step workflow on how to use Paragon. And so again, a lot of great things are out here in the system for you. Final thing I want to show you on the home page has to do with this session time remaining countdown clock in the lower left-hand corner. That countdown clock starts at 90 minutes. But every time you interact with our server, that countdown clock gets reset to 90 minutes. So every time you click on the home button, the timer goes back to 90 minutes. Every time you open up a search or go to work on listings or CMAs or contacts or any of the other large buttons, the system says, oh, you're there, and resets your timer. And so you could log in early in the morning, and as long as you don't take a lunch break or in a meeting for more than 90 minutes, Paragon will never log you out. And there's been times I've logged in at 6 in the morning, and I don't log out until 11 or 12 o'clock at night. Because I've always stayed active in the system, I've never been logged out. Now, if you do get logged out, and other than working on actual listing information using the listings button here, anything that you've not saved when you get logged out would be lost. So I recommend that you periodically save your work. Now, when it comes to listings, every 60 seconds, we're saving the details of the work you're doing inside your listing. So anyways, with a quick navigation around the home page and introduction to Paragon, let's go in and take a look at doing a search. So I'm going to come over to search. I'm going to click on the search button, and I have my banner menu redisplay. I'm going to move down, and I'm going to click on the residential detached. As I'm doing that, if all of a sudden I realize, oh, I really wanted residential attached, not a problem. Just come up to search, come down to click on residential attached, and notice how Paragon opened up an additional tab. I theoretically could open up every one of these links here and do a different property class all simultaneously and have a different tab for it. So let me open up multifamily as an example. I'm going to move over and I'm going to open up some additional tabs. Let's go ahead and create a CMA. Going to move over to my contacts. Going to click on Add a Contact. And notice how Paragon gives me different tabs across the top. Paragon truly is multitasking. And so by just coming over and clicking on whatever tab I want, I can be right there in the middle of that functionality and working. So there's no need to, if you need to change things, log out of or close down one area to open up another, you can have multiple tabs. And one day I was wondering, I wonder how many tabs I can have. I filled the first, the second, the third, and when I got to the 44th tab on the fourth row, I said, enough. I know I can do a lot of tabs. As you're opening up on your computer or your Mac, and you get out to about 5 or 6 tabs, and your computer or your device says you've reached the max number of tabs, that is a device setting, not a Paragon setting. Call your support team. They'll give you the setting that you can use to help you have dozens and dozens of tabs open at the same time. Let me come back to residential attached for a moment, and notice down below it says type of dwelling. I'm going to move over to the side, and I want to show you that not only are you looking whether it's attached or detached, but we have these different breakouts for you when it comes to finding the right kind of property. We also use these same breakouts when it comes to adding and maintaining listings. So notice in attached we have a half duplex, we have a townhouse, we have a row house, and other items. Let me get out of that. Let me come over to residential detached. We're coming down looking for type of dwelling. Going to click on the magnifying glass on the right-hand side. And notice how a window opens up. And on the window, notice how there's also townhouse at the bottom. So again, you could have a detached townhouse if you're looking for it. In addition to that, house with acreage, house single family, manufactured with land, other, and recreational all become different classifications or types, if you would, when it comes to each of the different classes of property, like attached and detached. Well, let me just stay right here on the detached screen, and let me show you the different details for each of the kinds of fields we have inside Paragon and how you would add criteria to them. So let me come over to status, and notice it's one of the magnifying glass fields. The magnifying glass on the right-hand side indicates that this particular field is a lookup field. In other words, you must pick from a list. So how do I find that list? I can put my cursor into the field, and by typing in a character or two, Paragon will show me all the different values that have, in this case, an A in them. And as long as the value you've typed into the field is either on the left-hand side of the dash, that, by the way, would be the data left in the field if it's selected, or on the right-hand side of the dash, that would then be the description. So as long as the character or characters you type in are either on the left or right-hand side of the dash, Paragon will display that information. So if I want it, I'd add a C, and notice how my results are then reduced. They become more refined. Let me move back out with just the A, and there's several different ways I can pick a value. Let me move my cursor up and down, and let me come over to, let's say, terminated. Let me do that again. Come over to terminated, and by doing a left mouse click, that value drops in. And won't notice my count over here on the right-hand side. It will update every time I add criteria to the search criteria screen. It will update for me. Now, typing in the field is one way of finding a list of values. Typically, it's a partial list of values. Another way of finding a partial list of values is to double-click in the field. And if I'm not using a mouse, I can use my up-down arrow key, find the value I want. Let's choose sold. Then I can hit one of three different keys on my computer. It could be the enter key, the comma key, or the tab key. I'm going to hit the comma key, and that will then select that value, drop it into the field, and notice how my count is going to recalculate here at the upper right-hand corner. All of my magnifying glass fields work exactly like that. Type in the field or double-click in the field. I can choose a partial list from a partial list of values. Now, when you click on the magnifying glass, status behaves differently than all the rest of the fields. Let me go ahead and click on the magnifying glass. And as I do that, instead of getting a table like I'll get for the others, I'm going to get a status tree. With the status tree, we have a parent-child type relationship with it. So as an example with withdrawn, if I click on the checkbox that is to the left, notice how the sub-values to the right are selected. Uncheck on the left, I then uncheck on the right. So it makes it very easy to add multiple values at the same time by clicking on the magnifying glass. I can come through, select all the different values I want, and then by clicking on the Save button, that information gets dropped into the field and Paragon's going to recalculate. Let me move down to sub area. Again, it's just one of the other magnifying glass fields. I'm going to click on the magnifying glass, and as I do that, I have my window open up, and notice down in the lower right-hand corner, there are 612 values that I can select from. And even though I can make each page up to 100 values in length, that's still a lot of information to look for. So how can I find something very quickly? May I recommend you use the search field at the top. I'm going to type in a couple characters, VAN, and notice by doing that, Paragon's going to go out and find any value that has VAN in them. It includes Sullivan Heights as an example. So by coming through, I can then choose as many different values as I want. If I want to find something else, maybe type in SUR, and by typing in SUR, this list refreshes. I'm going to choose a couple more values. Maybe I want to get something from Delta, so let me type in Delta. We then have that list selected. I've got that. I could type in Richmond, RICH. I can then choose a value there. Again, I can make as many selections as I want. And then by clicking on the Save button in the upper right-hand corner, those values are then dropped in, and my count is recalculated for me. So that is how a magnifying glass field works. You can either type in the field, double-click in the field, or by clicking on the magnifying glass, you can then select the values you want. Again, if you're looking for multiple values in the same field, clicking on the magnifying glass is the most efficient way of doing it. As I move on down the page, I want you to notice that we have range fields, like for pricing, for dates, for bedrooms, baths, full baths, half baths, whatever. Lots of different fields have a range to them, and by using the range, I can now put in just the low side, just the high side, or I can put in a low and a high side. And this functionality is very similar to what you have in ML Exchange. So let's assume I'm looking for a property that's between $1 million and $1.2 million. So I can then type in those values. Notice how Paragon gives you automatically the last 3 zeros. You can edit those values also. But having put in those details, notice how my count is now down to 716 properties. So again, I can put in just the low side as an example. Maybe it's just I need to be $1 million or more. So by putting in the low side, we're going to start at $1 million, go up to the most expensive, and there's almost 2,200 listings. By coming over to the low side, taking that out, coming over maybe putting in just my high side, we're now looking at 0 all the way up to 1.2 million. We're going to get a count on that. Again, you can put in exactly what you want, what your client is looking for, and come back with the results. Maybe 36,000 listings is a little too much. Let me put back in my $1 million. Let that recalculate, and I'm back to my 716 listings. And I can do that for a variety of things, including dates. Notice on dates, if I was concerned about the listing date, I only want to see listings from this time forward, or that was before a certain time, you can put in a range for when you want that to happen. I like the off-market date because it's going to take advantage of all my off-market statuses and say all of them are controlled by this particular value. If I were doing a CMA, maybe I'd only want to see properties that have been added or that have closed or come off market since a particular date. And by clicking in the field, I could put in a 2-digit month, 2-digit day, 4-digit year value. Or I can click on the calendar, and with the calendar clicked, I now have a display of calendars. I can use the left back button for a month. I can move back to, let's say, February. And once I get to February, I can pick whatever day of the month I want. Maybe it's the 1st. Drop that in. And now what we're looking at is give me all actives. And if it's a non-active status, so in other words, it's an off-market status, only show me those that have come off market since February 1st. And notice my count is 74. Now there's a quick way of doing this also. I can come over to date range. And by choosing date range, I could say back 24 months, 18 months, 12 months. I also continue down. It could be 6 months or 3 months, 2 months, 1 month, whatever I want. I'm going to choose 6 months. And when I click on it, I drop it in. And now Paragon's looking at all of the active plus only those that have come off market since 6 months ago, 6 months as of today. And I have 88 properties that match. Again, I can come in using these range fields and deal with not only pricing, dates going back, but maybe I needed to have at least 4 bedrooms. So down in total bedrooms, I put in a 4, leaving the top end empty. It says I need at least 4, but if I could get 5 or 6 at the same other criteria, great, show me the property. Now with that, I may say I need to have at least 2 baths, of which one of them needs to be a full. So again, I can put in whatever criteria I'm looking for to find what my client's needing. Let's assume my value all of a sudden went to extremely low values. Maybe it's 0, maybe it's 2 or 3, and I need more than that. I can look at my criteria summary that's over here on the right-hand side and see what couple values here are causing me to go to 0. And what we're looking for are places of intersection. As an example, if I said I wanted to live in Vancouver, but I wanted my kids to go to school in, let's say, Surrey, I'm not going to find many matches, if any. And so I can look at my criteria, see what the problem is, and maybe it has to do with my sub areas. I'm going to click on the blue pencil, and as I do that, I want you to watch the screen. Notice how the screen has moved, and there's a yellow bar that indicates where that field is at. With my cursor in the field, I can now come in and either add new values or take away values. To take away a value, see the little X next to where it says VRI72? I can click on the X. It'll say remove as I hover over it. And when I click on the X, it's gone. My count now updates for me. So again, I can then control what's going on. If I want to get rid of all the values in the particular field, see the red X? By clicking on the red X, I can now remove all values in that particular field, and my count will update for me. And so I'm now just under 2,000 matches. Again, a lot of great info ways of adding content to your search criteria screen. Let's move on down. Let's come over to public remarks. Public remarks, as you know, is a free-form text entry field. I can put in anything I want, and I'm not restricted by a lookup field or anything. If I were looking for a handyman property, I'm not sure how the listing agent has spelled handyman. They spell it with 1 word or 2. Is it a Y or an I? I'm not sure. So by typing in HAND and hitting tab, enter, or comma, that value gets dropped in, and I'm looking for anything that has hand in it. It could be hand at the beginning, could be at the end, just anywhere. Now in this case, it could be giving me handyman, but it could also be giving me handrail as an example. Coming on over, maybe I'm looking for a fixer-upper. So I want a handyman fixer-upper. I type in FIX, and for the same reasoning, I can now find fixer-upper however the agent spelled it. Did they hyphenate it or not? Well, with those two together, there's 141 listings that allow me to find a handyman or fixer-upper type property. But when it comes to FIX, it could also be fixture. So realize you may not get specifically what you're looking for. You may get other things that have that same character string in it. Now, how does Paragon know how to handle that? Is that an and or an or functionality? Over here on the right-hand side, see where it says contains. And with contains, notice my different options. I can say contains, it means it has at least one of these. I can say it's equal, it's got to have both of them. It does not equal, it contains all. It starts with, it does not start with, it does not contain. So you can see that there's a lot of options for you when it comes to putting information into a free-form text field and saying whether you want it or not. Now moving back up, notice that we do have equals with some of them. So if I'd put in a couple of sub areas or communities and decided I want everything but them, I could come over to does not equals. And so I could put in the short list those couple of items that I don't want and tell Paragon I don't want it to equal these. However, the default setting of all the fields is what you put in the field is what you're asking for. So a simple rule of thumb, if the area field is empty, then you're asking for all areas. But as soon as I put a value into the area field, you say forget everything, only give me the areas that I'm asking for. So that's, I think, a standard functionality when it comes to ML Exchange and Fusion also. Let me move on down. I'm going to show you down in the secondary category, features. Features is a way where you can start speccing out the amenities of the home. It's more than bedrooms, bath, square footage, and a price range. Notice that when it comes to features, I have must have, must not have, or must have one or more. That means if the property has everything that's inside the features area, you get to see the property. If it's missing some, you don't. So this is a very hard, if it's got to have it all, or you don't see the property. When it comes to the must not have, if the property has any one of those items, don't show me the property. And then for each category inside features, as long as it has at least one item within the category you've selected, show me the property. Let me show you quickly how that works. So by coming over to features, I'm going to collapse all the containers. That way you can then see the different options you have. So you have style of home, seller's entrance, occupancy, renovations. Moving on down a little bit further, we have fuel and heating. I'm going to expand that to help give you an idea how this might work. As you're looking at it, notice this container, this category has must have, must not have, must have one or more. And as I'm talking with my client, as we move down the list, they say, okay, if it had electric, I'd like it. It's got to have forced air because I want to have my heat blown out around the house during the wintertime. I want my cool blown around during the summertime. So it's got to have that or I don't want to see the property. If it's geothermal, great. If it's heat pump, it's great. Natural gas, that's great also. However, my particular buyer says they don't want oil and they don't want propane. So by coming into oil and propane and checking the boxes in the must not have, if any property had oil or propane, it would not be displayed. But as long as it had one of these other heating types over on the right-hand side and it had forced air, show me the property. And using that kind of functionality in each of these different breakouts or amenities, you can now go through and spec out and find exactly what that buyer is looking for. So it means you're going to have high probability by properties you go to. Well, taking those items I've selected, clicking on Save, they get added to my search criteria screen, and Paragon's going to recalculate and show me the number of matches I have, and there's 60. Now, if I wanted to remove those, just click on the X and they're gone. Also, notice I can look in and I can see not only the abbreviation, but what the value is for those items, not only the criteria screen, but also in line when it comes to the secondary criteria area for features. Let me just go ahead and get rid of all of the features for just a moment. I'm going to come back up to the top of the page. One of the more powerful tools of Paragon is the map search functionality. So based on the criteria that I have right now in my search criteria screen, I'm going to get rid of the fixer-upper and handyman. I can come up to my mapping. And so by clicking on the mapping field or the globe with the magnifying glass on the right-hand side, I open up to a map. Now the initial starting point of your map will be your broker office address. Now, as you go through that preference wizard, which I'm going to show you at the very end of our class, you can then choose a different starting point. So if your office is downtown, but you work out southeast of town, you can have your starting point be right in your trade area. And I'll again show you where you can make that setting. Let me go ahead and zoom out just a little bit. And now let me show you how you draw shapes on the map. As you come up to the top, notice we have a circle, a rectangle, and a polygon. I want you to realize that when it comes to doing the radius, it's based on the center of the map. And I can put in how many kilometers I want. So if I said 2 kilometers and I click on go, notice it's drawn from the center of the map. The X is not the center of the map once I've zoomed out. When I initially opened up, the X was in the center, but I wanted to show you that when I say 2 kilometers from the center of the map, it's not based on the X, it's the physical center of the map. Now, if that's not what I want, notice how it's showing the property that matches. I can click on the red X and it's gone. Let me show you how you would draw shapes on the map. So instead of using from the center of the map, I can just click anywhere. So let's take from Nanaimo and First Avenue, make that my center point, and as I pull out, notice the number of kilometers that's being indicated below my cursor. I'm at 2 kilometers. I can click. Paragon will close down, will find me all the properties that match my criteria that's inside that shape. And notice how we have multiple for sale signs or colored for sale signs displayed. Let me come up to the legend, click on it, so you can see what the values of or meanings of the different colors. A green is an active listing, blue is a sold listing, a burnt orange is an expired listing. I think that's a little bit different than what you're used to having in ML Exchange and Fusion. The brown is withdrawn. And so as I'm looking, I can make sure that I have the right kinds of listings being displayed. Notice that Paragon says we're seeing 39 of a maximum of 200 listings. And you may be asking, how does Paragon pick the 200 listings? It's based on your grid. However you have your grid organized, however you have it sorted, it's the up to first 200 rows that's displayed on this map. Now, if we're looking at the Bing results map, it's the first 100 listings. But on the search map, it's the first 200 listings, and it's based on the first 200 rows on the grid. So row 1 would be for sale sign 1. Row 50 would be for sale sign 50. Row 200 would be for sale sign 200. So there's a direct correlation between the map numbering and the grid. Let's come over and let's draw another shape. I'm going to draw a rectangle. As I click, I've now created my beginning corner. And now by moving my cursor around, I'm looking for the diagonal corner. Let me click. We close that down, and Paragon will then find me all the listings that match my criteria within that rectangle also. Now, both circles and rectangles have a very defined, rigid definition to what kind of shape they draw. And as I look at your map, you've got the inlets, you've got the bays, you've got roads that follow along the different rivers and all. So sometimes you may have the need of having something other than a north-south rectangle or a circular rubber band type or radius search. In order to have that, I'm going to choose the polygon. And by choosing the polygon, I can now start at any place I want. I can now have up to 50 different clicks to identify that region from which I want to pull my results from. Let me go ahead and get that to stick for me. There we go. Let me come down. Again, you can draw an irregular shape up to 50 clicks in order to identify that region. Let's come down to marine, come back over, come back up. And when you're done clicking, just come back over to the red X, click on it again. Paragon will close it down, recalculate the number of matches, and notice that we have now 125 listings. Now, if we have shapes that are listings that are in multiple shapes, Paragon only counts that address once. So we're not going to double or triple up the count because it happens to be in multiple shapes. We count each address uniquely once. So there are legitimately 125 properties that match the criteria that's in the designated area. Now, I mentioned to you in the PowerPoint that we have the ability to exclude. Right now, we're doing everything include. Let's take the rectangle, the rubber band, and see where it says include. I'm just going to click on where it says in, and as I do that, that switch is going to toggle. Notice the change in the screen, and we come back, it's going to exclude all listings that are inside that shape. You may be saying, how does that work? How would I use that in my business? Well, maybe someone wants to live in a particular area, and it has a certain culture, it has a certain design of the homes. Maybe it has to do with the kind of shops and restaurants that are there, whatever it is. You may say, this is the area I want to be in, but let's assume that there is no off-street parking, and so when people have filled up the curb in front of the business, they spill over into the residential area or streets behind. Well, you could say I want to be 3 or 4 streets plus or minus above or below to the side of that main business street. That way when my friends come over, they can park in in front of my house, but yet I'm still in that area that has that unique culture that I'm looking for. So by choosing the one shape to say, what is the area I want to be in? And then by using another shape, I can say, accept here. Let me go ahead and add this information back to my search criteria screen. I could continue refining this if I wanted. But let's assume that this fits what your buyer's looking for. We need to save the search. Well, coming up to our buttons across the top, notice where it says Save Search. With Save Search, I can either click on Save Search at the top, which allows me to update the current search I'm working on. And that would be like I have a client who's given me a call. I'm already running automatic email notifications for them. And they give me a call and say, I've got a big pay raise. I can increase the dollars I'm going to spend on my home. I bring up their Save Search, change the price range on their pricing, and I click on Save. And by doing that, I automatically update the Save Search and the automatic email notification that's going out to my client. A very simple process. Moving down below, we have Save Search As. And Save Search As allows me to give that search a new name. So I'm working with my client, brand new client. We're using the residential default, detached default search, and I've put in all their criteria. I don't want to save it in that search because I want it pristine for my next buyer. So I move down to Save Search As, and I can now give this a new name. So I have my name that's in right now. It says Residential Detached. Let me change that name. Let me call that, let's make that William. And I'm going to save it with criteria in the search criteria screen. I could make it my default residential search if I wanted. And if I come over to contacts, notice I could identify a contact. I could assign this to a contact or add a brand new contact. And once I've identified a contact with this search, I then have the button Save and Notify available to me, so I can then go ahead and choose which of the two different email notifications I want to use. I'm going to come back to myself. I'm going to save this as the name of William, and I'm going to click on Save. I've clicked on Save. Notice it says Saving the Search there in the center. And then notice in the upper right-hand corner, there's a green confirmation rectangle. It indicates that you've actually saved the search. Now, by looking at the toolbar buttons, notice it has a button over on the left-hand side that says Load a Search. I'm going to move down to where it says Load a Save Search, and I'm going to click. And by clicking, Paragon's then going to open up a window, and it's going to show me all of my saved searches. I could have dozens, I could have hundreds, I could have thousands. I can have an unlimited number of saved searches. So if I want to find William, I can just type in. It doesn't have to be at the beginning. Could be at the end, and notice how it's pulling up anything that has those sets of characters in it. By clicking on the name of the search, I can then load that search, and Paragon will then quickly calculate for me the number of matches I have for the search. In my PowerPoint, I mentioned about the last search. So by hovering over the last search button, notice how I have 5 sets of criteria now being displayed for me. I can then move down through that list. This one at the very bottom I'm highlighting is the oldest search. And if I were to add another new search, this one at the bottom I'm highlighting would drop off because I'd have a new one added at the top and I'd have a new set of 5. By clicking on any of these criteria, I can pick up where I left off at and continue working. That becomes a great tool. And then we have customizing. Let me go ahead and show you customizing here. The customizing tool works the same everywhere inside Paragon. So whether I'm customizing the search criteria screen, a grid, a property report, or even choosing which reports to print or email, it's exactly the same tool. So if I come over to customize, there we go. I choose fields. The tool is like this. What's over on the left-hand side is available for you to choose. The function in the buttons in the middle allow you to add or remove from the right-hand side, and once over on the right-hand side, you can move up and move down. Let me put in a search for, let's say, pets. I want to know anything that has to do with pet or has PET in it. Well, there's a number of pets. I'm going to select it. I'm going to click on Add. Let me come over and find something else, maybe city. There's city. I want to add that. So again, I can find multiple fields I want to add to my search criteria screen. And when you move them from the left-hand side to the right or right to left, we always put those values at the very, very bottom. I can then select multiple values, move them up, move them down, leave the one behind that I want to leave at that point, and then moving back up, I can now move up and put next to sub-area and community, city. There we go. And now when I click on apply, the screen is going to refresh. It's going to show me the new fields that I've put in. And if I like what I see, I need to come over to save and either update the search or save it with a new name. Let's come over and use the last search functionality. So let me choose one of these last searches. There we go. Let me bring up that criteria. And before I click on search, I want you to see down at the bottom that every property report that's available to you is here on the search criteria screen. And so if you want to go to your favorite reports, those are the ones that you use again and again. To get them into favorites, just do a left mouse click and drag and drop it inside the favorites container. Well, down here at the bottom, we have spreadsheets, and spreadsheets are what you would call a grid. Below that, we have detail reports, and a detail report simply means it's one property per page. Now, we have some of our detail reports I've got up in my favorites already. A multi-up means there's multiple properties on the same page. And if you want, we've got some specialty reports. So if you want to see the property history, the hot sheet history for a particular property, you can find and select them. We also have some CMA reports. A quick view puts 4 properties side by side. The summary groups properties according to their status and then gives you some statistics. And then we have a spreadsheet. Below that, we have regular reports. And these regular reports give you a lot of different market share information. One of my favorites down here is the sold price. It shows you listing price, selling price, percentage of selling price to listing price, days on market, and several other details. So again, any of these reports, if you like them, left mouse click and hold, drag up into favorites, and see that little line right there by my cursor pointer finger? That indicates where that report will drop in. And notice the green confirmation rectangle. Whatever reports I have in favorites when I log out, they'll be there when I log back into Paragon, regardless of the device I'm on. Let me scroll in just a little bit. And the nice thing again about having all those reports on your search criteria screen, if you're a seller or buyer sitting next to you, you may want to show them a property report rather than a grid that would allow them to see the pop and the wow of the property rather than a potentially confusing grid. I'm going to click on search. And by clicking on search, I've asked for the grid to be my default report. As this report is loading up, notice it tells me how many properties are part of my results. It's also going to show me the days on market, high, low, average, median, based on the properties I have in my results. And then for listing price and selling price, notice I have a high, low, average, median, and a total for the row. Now, as I'm looking at these results, there's a couple things I can do. First of all, notice these pictures. I've told you in the PowerPoint that those are pretty small pictures. So if I want to see more details about this property number 2, I can just click on the picture. And as I do that, notice how the screen is changing, and I now have a larger picture of the property being displayed. Now over here on the side, let me scoot over just a little bit, notice that I have some thumbnail film strip pictures. I can, by using the arrow at the bottom or at the top of the film strip, walk through each of those different pictures. I also have embedded arrows on the right and left-hand side of the picture. Let me scoot back over so you can see the left-hand side. Now with my cursor over the picture, if I had any photo comments, in Paragon we call those labels and descriptions, those would be displayed at the bottom of the slide. And by clicking on the embedded arrows, as you go from picture to picture, you also change the photo comments or labels and descriptions as you go. So if you want, by using the film strip, you can have unencumbered pictures, but as soon as you want to see a comment, scroll back over the picture and you can then see the comment. Your client can do that. They can also, by moving over, they can print a particular picture. Now, something that you have that they don't have is the slideshow. And by clicking on the slideshow, this is one of 2 slideshows available to you in Paragon. This particular slideshow is automatically sequencing between the pictures or through the pictures, and you don't have any control of that timing. That's how much time you spend on each picture. You can stop the slideshow and then, if you want, step through. Now, that's what you can do. Your client does not have access to the slideshow. Let me go ahead and close that down. And let me close this down also. Just by clicking outside of the widget, we can then close that down also. So let me close this and we're back to the grid. Here we go. Another thing you can do is you can move property. So if I wanted property 6 to be at the top of the list, left mouse click on the number, move it up. And when I release my left mouse button, I want you to notice that that property sequence is going to reorder. So I can move properties around, place them wherever I want, and the numbers will recalculate. If I want to, I can click at the top of the column, and I can then sort by that column. So as an example, if I want to sort by bedrooms, I could click at the top of the column. I would now be sorting by bedrooms. I think I've asked for just 4 bedrooms. So let me come over to total floor area. So by clicking, first of all, I'm going to be saying show me from the smallest to the largest. Notice how my square footage area is going up. Well, that's acres maybe, or area. Click again, it's going to give me from highest to lowest. If I click on pics, I can now make sure I've got pictures displayed either from the lowest to highest or highest to lowest. And notice that we don't have all the pictures in at this point. Those are some of the details that will be added to Paragon as we go through the parallel process, is adding all the pictures, all of your property history back to 1991, all of your different documents and photos and photo labels and comments, put all those different details in for you. Another thing I can do is, let's say I want to take city and I want to move it over a couple columns to the right. With my cursor over the header, the label, the column, do a left mouse click, and as I drag over, notice that green background? That indicates where this column will drop in when I release my mouse. As that happens, notice that I've got a green confirmation rectangle indicating that the column preference has been saved. So again, with everything else, wherever this column is at right now, that's where it'll be when I come back into residential detached and I'm on the default grid. Now let's take a look at my address column for a moment. Notice how it's cutting off some of the words. By hovering over the right-hand side, notice the double arrowhead, left mouse click, and slide. I can make that column wider or narrower. And notice how Paragon will save that column preference. So not only will we save the location, but also the width of the column. Let's look at some other things. I may want to be out here working with these different properties. Let's choose the ones that have pictures for right now. Come back up and grab that number 2. Notice across the top I have my toolbar. I think you're going to find that these buttons here are very clear in what they do. So with the one that says checked, it says show checked, meaning show the checked properties. Let me click on that button and notice how I'm only seeing those properties that are selected. I can continue on filtering as many times as I would like, getting myself down to that set of properties that I want to have for this particular what-if scenario. And when I want to start on something new, see where it says all? That means show all of the properties. And by doing that, I'm going to show all of the properties, and the last properties selected are still selected. Now, if I want, I could click at the top of the column. See that checkbox? I've now selected all of my listings. By checking that checkbox again, I now remove all the selections, and I can start off with a pristine grid for another set of assumptions. As I continue over to the right, notice where it says action icons. The action icons give you great information about this particular property, whichever row you're on. The D has to do with documents or disclosures. So if you've got the floor plan, promotional materials, other things there, disclosures of any kind, they will be found with clicking on the D. If there are no documents for a particular property, the D would be hidden. The H is going to show property history. So if you want to see the number of times that this particular address has been on the market, click on the H. We'll show you the most recent activity or time on the market at the top, the oldest at the bottom, and within each ML number breakout, we'll show you the key events that have happened in the life of that listing. The M will then display a map. The $ is a mortgage calculator. T is the Paragon tax. And then I is quick image and information. And as we go through other integrations, you're going to find that web forms will be out here, that touch base will be out here. You're going to find other things, and by clicking on the little dot or icon for each property row, you're going to pull back, like for web forms, the web form with that property information in it, or you're going to find the tax information for this particular property. So these are smart links that gives you direct information about that property in each of these different breakouts. A lot of great information that's there. Notice where it says customize. By hovering over customize and clicking on fields, I can add columns to this grid just like I added fields to the search criteria screen. And because we've got, I think, very descriptive buttons coming across the top, not only in the toolbar, but with our large buttons that vary across the top, I want to give you a phrase. The phrase is, if I see it, I can do it. And that's a phrase I would like you to remember. Because if you see a button like you want to do searches, you want to work with the CMA, that's where you click. If you want to filter, or you want to see all of them, if you want to email, if you want to print, you would click on that appropriate button and you can do that functionality. Now, some of you may be apprehensive about that. You're afraid to click because you're afraid you may click in the wrong spot and cause Paragon to crash. And if that's your fear, get rid of it, because you can't destroy, you can't cause Paragon to crash. There's nothing you could do that would cause that to happen. And let me tell you, since 2004, there's been people trying to take me up on that and tried to break Paragon, and they can't, and they haven't, and neither will you. So with confidence, we want you to go out and explore and investigate and just experiment with Paragon. And what will happen if you click here? Well, check it out and see. Knowing that you can't kill Paragon is, I think, a nice comfort or security you could have that you can explore without any fear of doing something harmful. The worst you could do, you could delete a search, delete a contact, delete a CMA, and you can recover from all of those. Well, we've got these results. Let's assume that we want to send these 3 properties out to a buyer. By checking those 3 properties, I'm going to come up to email, and by clicking on email, a new window is going to open up for me, and on that it's going to give me the tools that I can use to send an email. As you notice at the very top, Paragon's asking what type of email do you want to send. May I strongly recommend you always use the hyperlink. The hyperlink provides a smart link inside the email, and when your client clicks on that link in the email for the next 90 days after you send the email to them, they can click on each ML number for the property and get current information about that property at the time they click. Again, they've got a 90-day window they can use that with. Now, on the 91st day, the link in the email goes inactive, and so they can no longer see those properties. Moving down, we have attachments, and attachments are like taking a picture now. And regardless of how many days they've got that email, they can always see today's picture. 30 days, 90 days, 120 days down the road, they can still be looking at that property. However, because it's a picture, it doesn't show them price changes or status changes. And so because of that, I would always choose the hyperlink as my primary way of communicating information to my clients, because they want to see, are there price changes and is the property still available? So I'm going to recommend hyperlink. Moving down to the bottom, Paragon says, okay, what properties do you want to send out? Is it those that you have selected, in this case 3? Is it all that are in your results? In this case it's 86. Or is it the last one you clicked on? I'm going to choose the 3. Using the customizing tool, I'm now going to choose a couple property reports I want to send out. Now, if I'm sending this to a client, I want to make sure I send only buyer-friendly reports to them. So let me choose these 3 reports. I could send 5, 6, 7 different property reports in a single email. By clicking on Add, just like I did in customizing the search criteria screen, I've now put these 3 property reports into my email. I no longer have to check any of the boxes because they're on the right-hand side. They are selected. Those check boxes if you want to select and then remove. Let me uncheck those. I'm going to click on the email button in the upper right-hand corner. By clicking on email, the screen is going to change, and I'm now going to see my email template. The 2, the copy and the blind copy, are all magnifying glass fields going over to my contacts that have been brought over into Paragon as of June 16th. So if I wanted to, I could type in Nick, and I could then find his name if I had a Nick. Now, something that I can do is I can put in an email address, and it doesn't have to belong to a contact inside my contact manager. Let me choose an email address. I can drop that in. So I can either put in a random email address, or I can put in an email address that comes from a contact record. I can send this email to multiple contacts, either in the 2, the copy, or the blind copy. And notice how I'm blind copied. That's one of the settings I made when I ran through the preference wizard that I'll show you here in a couple minutes. Down below in the body, notice where it says click here to view the listings. That link is always there. So what I've done is I put my cursor below it. Going to come up to where it says message body, and here's some different message bodies that I've put into my Paragon system. I'm going to choose the 90-day special. And what's nice about the 90-day special wording, I just changed who the name is I'm going to send it to. And this now tells my client that the properties that are going to be found when they click on the link are based on a safe search for, or a search for them. That the link in the email is good for 90 days, and after 90 days, the link goes inactive. And I always ask them to, let's go visit the property. So I've got some kind of a motivational item there. Moving down below, there's my signature, working hard for you and your family, my name, my cell phone number, my picture, my office logo, and other contact information. So with my email complete, I just click on send. And by clicking on send, that email has gone. And this is what Nick would see when he gets the email. I'm going to click where it says click here to view listings. And as I do that, the window changes and I have this template come up, and in the upper right left-hand corner, there's my contact information. My email address and web address are active links, and so my client can click on either one of them and either bring up an email to send information to me or go out to my website. There's my contact picture, and then down below, there are the 3 reports I'm sending to my client. They open up on the first one, which is the full public, but if they wanted to go to blue, they could then see the blue report, and notice that the blue report has a map on it. That map is dynamic, and so I can just do a left mouse click on it. I can move it around. Do a right click. I can zoom in, zoom out. I can even change it to a road view to look at the property. And then I can scroll on down. I can see additional pictures. I can add some of my own text to this. If I come over to green, the custom color green, again, I have this, and this one focuses more on pictures than it does on a map. So again, I've got lots of good information here, and when my client clicks on the print button, they actually print out that report on their printer. Let me go ahead and close this down. Let's assume we're going on a property visit. You and I are going to go on a property visit. I'm going to come over to print. By moving down to print, I could then print out this grid. But typically when I'm printing property reports, I move down to print plus. By clicking on print plus, I can print out property reports for multiple properties, and I can print out multiple property reports themselves for the different properties. So this is the most dynamic way of printing and saving you a lot of time and energy. So by clicking on print, Paragon says, I'd like to print this spreadsheet. At least that's the assumption, because that's the report I'm on right now. Well, before I get rid of that, because for our visit, I don't need the grid, notice that I can choose orientation. Auto typically means portrait, but I can force it portrait, or I can force it landscape. That way I can have it print out in a way that would be most appropriate for my set of listings in my grid. When it comes to the information we're going to print out, I want something for you and I want something for me. So I'm going to give the full public to you, the full realtor to me. By clicking on add, those have been dropped in, and notice they were dropped in the order that I clicked on them. Now if I want the public to be first, I can just check the box, move it up, and now I have 2 options for printing in the top of the left-hand corner or right-hand corner. One, just send it out to the printer, but as you're getting used to Paragon, I recommend you use print and preview. And by doing print and preview, we're going to generate those 2 reports for the 3 properties. We're going to generate the first report in all 3 properties, and then the second report in all 3 properties. And so there we have that, and at this point, I can then scroll on down through, looking at these reports, making sure that this is what I want. And so these first 3 pages we've seen, that's what I would give to you as my buyer. These next 3 pages, this is what I would keep for myself, because it has agent-specific information. If I like what I see, using the operating system and browser that I've got, plus the PDF program I have on my computer, I can then print this out to my printer, or I could even save this to my computer if I wanted. So I've got several ways of handling the output. So if I've decided that I've got the wrong report, I'm going to click on back, take out the wrong report, put in the right report, and then either print or preview again. So as you can see, there's a lot of good things that you can do right here on the grid or any property report. So as an example, by clicking on reports, I could come down to the full public report. Again, I can come in and make any changes. I can step through the properties. Notice that I have the ability to email. I can print. Also notice that I could, if I wanted, before I save that search criteria, wait until I've actually looked at the results. And here on the results, I can do the same as I did before, where I can save the search and just update it, give it a new name, or take the selected reports and I can now add it to a listing cart. And with listing cart, I can either save it to my listing cart or to one of my clients' listing carts, or one of the customized, the functional listing carts that I can create for myself with certain categories. And that's how you would then print and email out of Paragon. Let's come up to the tax button. By clicking on tax, again, you're going to be able to do a province search. Now by clicking on British Columbia, I have a search criteria screen. And with the search criteria screen, it's like a regular property search. I can put in whatever information I have about the property. So if I know the street name, if I know the owners, if I know the selling date or the prices or whatever, I can come in and search for it any way I want. If I'm not really sure, I could come over to property address. Let me type in 1000 and 1100. Notice what's happened to my count. And then let's say it's going to be on 45th Street. So I just put in the property street name. I know it's on one of those, it's in that block and on that street, but I'm not sure exactly what the property is. So I put in the details. I can click on search. And I let my grid load up. And with that, I do have a lot of columns in this grid to help me find out details about this particular group of properties. From over here under the tax roll number, if I click on a particular number, let's say it's property number 3, I then get a property tax report, as you're seeing now. This report I can email, I can print, but this is a report that can give me more details about this particular property. When I come back over to the detached, let me click on back. That's the back button next to reports. It's going to bring me back to my grid. If I click on the T for Paragon Tax, let me let that report update. And there it is. And so I can get to this tax information a variety of different ways. I can either do a tax search if it's just a general property. If it's been in the database, I can do a search for it and then click on the T and action icons. I can come up with the details. So again, a lot of different information for you here. Now, if you're in the role of adding new listings to Paragon, when you click on listings and you then choose the different property classes, be it attached, detached, multifamily, or land, you're then going to be taken out to a tax database search. You'll then search for the property, and once you've selected it, you can either just automatically import information from the tax records into the listing, or you can view the property report, verify it, and then add select fields from the tax roll information and add it directly to the Paragon listing input form inside Paragon. So anyways, that's how that tax information will be utilized going forward to help you when you're adding new listings to Paragon. Let me zoom in just a couple clicks. I want to come over to preferences as we get ready to end our webinar today. By clicking on preferences, I'm going to come down to the preference wizard. And by clicking on that, I'm going to display a window on top of my page. Every time you log into Paragon, until you run this preference wizard, you're going to see this starting page. We would like you, at the very first time you log into Paragon, to come in and actually run this wizard. This wizard allows you to set up how your Paragon system in general is going to work. And there is a handout that's available to you. It has green information, or it has details when it comes to your home page and some of your options. It's going to show that the preference button has been clicked. When you click on that button and preferences wizard, you're going to see this just like I did also. What we want you to do is click on start. As you click on start, where I have my picture, you're going to see a Realtor R. You can, by clicking on update photo, you can browse out, find your picture wherever your computer can go or your device can go to. You can add a picture to your picture library, and from that library you can select which picture you want to have working right now for you. By clicking on next, you save any changes or any additions or setting changes you've made. Then you come over to your office logo. And here I have a tropical island. It's kind of nice to see that when you're in Kansas City and there's several feet of snow out and it's February. But anyways, you can change this logo, and you would update that logo just like you did your agent image, have it in your picture library, and by clicking on next, you save that setting. You then come over to your market monitor, and this is where you can make your market monitor reflect your niche market. It's the same tool you'd go to if you clicked on the blue gear on the market monitor's upper right-hand corner. You're going to find that in Paragon, there's multiple ways to get to the same functionality area. This is just another one. Set in your niche market items for your market monitor, click on next, and save those settings. You then come over to your search options. Again, as you're walking through this wizard, that one handout I was indicating will give you some recommended settings for each of these areas. This is going to talk about where do you want to start your map search. If you want it somewhere other than your office address, check the box, click the link. You can now go out and make those setting changes or starting points. By clicking on next, we then come over to your results. And on the results page, this is where you can come in and say, when I click on a search button, what report am I going to see? When I'm on a grid and I tap the ML number, if I'm using a tablet, or if I'm a PC or Mac, I can just double click anywhere on the row, what report do I want to see? And there's other things that you'll set with this setting. By clicking on next, we now come over to your user interface. Now again, there's a variety of settings you can make here, including you can change your font face, your font size, and font color as you're composing inside Paragon. Clicking on next, you're then going to come over Contact Manager. And at this point, the only option is how many contacts you want to display on a page. I've chosen the max of 250. And by clicking on next, we then move over to email options. And this is where we want you to come. You can skip over all those other things if you want, but we need you to come here that first time you come into Paragon. Now on this page, I recommend you check the box to be blind copied on all emails you send out of Paragon. That way, that very, very important email that you need to have yourself copied on, if you're busy and rushed and you forget to do it, well, it may be a little awkward to getting it back. You can, but it'll be a little more difficult. So my recommendation is check this box while you're here. And what we really want you to do is we want you to move down to the bottom of the page and see where it says email. We're then going to show you the email address that's inside Paragon associated with your contact record, your agent record. Now, there's nowhere in Paragon where you can change your contact information, like your name, your email address, your street address, phone numbers, web address, and things of that nature. Now, so if you do need to update your information in an email, send it into the board, and they can then update your information through copy and paste. And that's the most efficient way of letting them know of changes to your contact information. Well, with this email address being the correct email address, when you move over to the right where it says status, yours will say unverified. Mine says email verified. And how did I get mine to say verified? Well, over on the right-hand side of the unverified, there's a send verification button. We want you to click on that button and send yourself a verification email. It will go out of Paragon immediately. And to this email's inbox, we'd like you to go. Your email from Paragon will be there within a minute or two. Subject line will say something like Paragon Email Services. We want you to open up that email. The instructions in the body of that email indicate that we need you to click that email address to verify your email address back to Paragon. That's essential. That's required by your Spam Act here in Canada. Plus, it also gives you email functionality in Paragon. And once you've verified your email address, you have unlimited email privileges within Paragon for that email address. If you should change your email address, then you need to go back and click that link inside an email that says, is this your new email address? Verify it, and then you've satisfied all the requirements, and you also have continued unlimited privileges of email out of Paragon. Now, when it comes to emailing out of Paragon, we always send it as if you've sent it from your business email account. That way, when your client replies back, it goes to your account, not back to Paragon. And that's an important understanding for you to have, that when you email out of Paragon, you're using Paragon's email tool, and we send it out as if you sent it from your business account. Let me go ahead and close this down. Let me come over and just show you one other report. One of the things that people have been interested in is, how can I show all of my properties on a single map? Well, we've got it on the search side up to 200 properties. On the results side, we have the Bing Map Report. And the Bing Map Report will display up to 100 properties on the page. We can then zoom that in if you want. And notice how we have your different for sale signs off to the side, and it indicates different details about your properties. While you're here, this is one way you can get to Paragon's driving directions. So that's another thing that a lot of people have been interested in, and I thought I'd show that to you also. Well, it's about time that we finish our webinar, so let me come back out to my PowerPoint. We want to thank you for attending the webinar. Participant handouts are available for you from rebgv.ca. And those, when you get to that location, we want you to go to My Files, and for a maximum of 30 days from your webinar course date, you'll be able to download and save those materials that we've got them on your computer. And so we want to make sure you've got those details to help you remember what we've talked about today. For additional training information, you can go out to rebgv.ca to the member portal, select Education and Technology Support, and then select the course you're interested in attending from the course calendar. Additional online resources can be found at paragon.mlslink.ca. A lot of great information and resources available right at your fingertips. Well, we want to thank you for attending our webinar today. We've covered a lot of materials in the last 90 minutes. If you want to go out and practice how some of these fields work, you can always go out and go into the commercial database and we'll see how those different fields work. Again, it's going to be different data than what you've got because it's commercial rather than residential, but it'll allow you to go out and become more familiar with how Paragon functions. And then when you have access to Paragon the week of July 6th, you'll have a better understanding of how Paragon works. Again, everybody, thank you for attending our webinar, and success to you as you make your transition to Paragon.